Hi, welcome to my video YouTube channel. My name is Evelyn Vanderhoop and I'm weaving on a basically raven's tail robe, but I'm doing Naheen shapes and using Naheen chilkat techniques. And so I've invited people to come along with me in this copper shield shape. So copper shields were a prestigious item. Copper was very much valued, and so I've decided to put a line of shapes of these copper shields on my robe. I would also like to read you a story in this episode because I am doing a few techniques that I have already talked about and talked you through. So I will video tape me as I weave, and then I'll narrate a story. And these stories are coming from it's a rare book. You don't find it even in hardly any rare bookstores. It's called the Haida Text, Masset Dialect. You can see some of the stories, the Haida Text Skidegate dialect. You can see the whole book on archive.org if you wanted to read it off that website. But for the Haida Text Masset dialect, you not even on archive.org, not even there can you find it. So I'm sharing these by reading them to you as I weave. And I hope that you enjoy this and that in my demonstrations you can see how I'm weaving these techniques. So thank you very much for joining me, and we'll continue. This story is story 50 from the Swanton Haida Text Masset Dialect book, The Woman Who Became a Shaman. 10 women went from the town of Luinld, and this is a town that was in Naden Harbor, to get bark, and they arrived on the other side of Naden. The stream in the valley of which they were is called Nasl. And when they were about to go up to the woods, they anchored their canoe at an island lying in the mouth, because they thought they would come down when the tide was low. This island is named Te'ed. The canoe was upon this, and then they went up into the woods together. And after they had gone on for a while, they came to many young cedars. They said to one another, "Let no one wander far away." Then a certain young woman was with them. In spite of the directions they had given one another, she went far away from them. And when they pulled off cedar bark, she did the same thing. She tried to pull it off, and although there were no branches to be seen, branches often prevent you from stripping off bark easily. So although there were no branches to be seen, she was unable to pull it down. And while she was trying to do this, the sun set. Then she was very unhappy. When she also tried to pull down small cedars, she was unable to do so. She went far away from them. At that time she came to a young tree. Then she saw that there was much pink gum upon it. Then she began to take it off and put it into her mouth, from the bottom up. When her ball had become large and round, she put it aside. When she had a great deal, she heard the people calling to her. She did not reply. When she did not reply, those who called her were very much troubled. Then all sat down in one place in the trail. The cedar bark, there's a note here. The cedar bark is also said to have sung a song through her at this time, the words of which were as follows, repeated over and over. Dee dun, Da sa I ya aga og. Do na I. You let me hang always in spite of your pulling, younger sister. A poetic way of saying, you could not pull me down, younger sister. Cedar bark is said to be every woman's elder sister. Then they said, call to her. But when they came to her, a woodpecker answered. And when they called to her again, it answered again. They said to one another, let us go straight towards the thing that is calling. Then all started, and after they had gone for a while, they called again. And then it sounded close by them. They said to one another, let us go to the place where it calls nearby. And they came to where the gum tree stood. And then they saw her lifeless body laying beneath it. And then they made her sit upright. After they had made her sit up, something made a noise in her chest. She had become a shaman. She made herself a shaman while chewing gum there. They did not know at first that she was a shaman, but when she talked, as shamans do, they knew it. And there was no way to get her down to the canoe. They said to one another, let us stay here this night. So they stayed there overnight. It was a long distance. In the morning one said, let us make a mat for her. One of you go and get your cedar bark. So one went and got it. And when she got there, she put it on her back. This was her elder sister. And when she came to them, they began to make the mat, and they completed it. And when it was completed, they laid her upon it, and they started down with her. They left all of their cedar bark. In the evening they brought her down. Then they launched their canoe. Then they took her home, and they arrived at the town with her. Then the people came down to them in a crowd. They said, this woman has become a shaman. Then they carried her up. They put her in her uncle's house. Then her uncle said, tomorrow drink seawater. So as the people of this family usually did when a shaman was performing. That was a note from Swanton. So they did. At that time, they called the people to go down and bring up seawater in a big square shaman's box. And in the evening, they tied a dancing apron on her. And when she sang, she walked around the fire. Crab spoke through her, and the red-headed woodpecker also spoke through her. Aha na hia hey, aha na hia hey. Spirits that all around the wall, spirits that all around the wall. Listen to what I say. Listen to what I say. This was Crab's song, and when she sang this, crabs came up thick upon the coast. Afterward, when Woodpecker sang through her sitting upon the edge of the smoke hole, that was a big crab. There was a big crab at the mouth of Naden that spoke through her. Therefore, there are many crabs in Naden. So I really like that story because the garments are important. They needed to weave a mat for her, and that way they carried her to the canoe on that mat. But when she came to dance, she came to the town. She had her uncles tell her about the salt water, and then in her songs, the spirits came to her, and then these songs and her actions caused many crabs in Naden Harbor. And oftentimes in the fall, I go crabbing over there in Naden, and to this day, it's a good place to go get crabs, Dungeness crabs. So I really like this story about the cedar gathering, and how she wandered away. My mother talks about when she was a child, how they used to, when they went to gather cedar bark into the woods, that's what they would say, is that you stay together because there's bears. And so another way they would keep the bears away, and then they would know each other was safe, was to have them have a song. So as you were gathering your cedar, you would sing your song, and that would tell your friends where you were and that you were safe. And it would also keep the bears, because bears are shy, and if they hear you coming, then they're not going to come after you. But if you're not making noise, they won't be afraid of you, and so they sometimes will stalk you. So songs will keep you safe. And I really feel strongly that songs gave us strength and kept us safe in many, many instances. So I want to thank you for listening to my story and to joining me in my weaving. And thank you very much.